Alright, welcome back. In the next series of videos, what we're going to do is we're going to look at a much nicer example scene to go ahead and show you how Final Gathering works. And I'm going to show you some neat ways of creating a realistic sky effect in Exercise 6. The following features that we're going to talk about in this set of videos is going to relate only to Exercise 6 because we're going to be using features that were introduced with the new version of Mental Ray in Exercise 6. Let's open up a new scene. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and look for 05 scene, Final Gather City, start. So let's go ahead and open that up. And what you end up is with this a mock-up of a very, very large city that goes on for a very long distance. So let's go ahead and do a render region real quick. And this is what we get. Pretty bad, right? Of course. Alright, let me go ahead and prep this scene up first. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go get my default light. And unlike in the last Final Gathering videos, I'm going to actually delete this light this time. That way Final Gathering's not going to work. I want to break it on purpose because I'm crazy. Now you'll see what I'm talking about in a moment. Let's go to ambience and let's turn our ambience all the way off. Do a quick render region. You should have pitch black. If you do, you're in good shape. Okay. Now what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and activate Final Gather. So the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to approach this a little bit differently in terms of rendering. Throughout this tutorial, we've been using, if we go over here, we've been using regions, all options to control our render settings and things. But that's going to change right now. It's good to know how to change render settings from here. But from now on, I'm actually going to start jumping into using different PPGs to control our render settings just so you get a good feel for it and some practice changing your render settings in a couple of different ways as opposed to depending just on the render regions. What we're going to do instead is, actually let's go back and open up our all options again. There's an important option we want to turn on. Up here under the render region options, this area we're always collapsing, this time it's going to come in useful. What I'm going to do is right here, this first option says use current pass options. I'm going to check that on and it's going to deactivate everything. That means that right now the render region tool is actually going to be using render settings that are set by the pass options as opposed to the render region window. So what are the pass options? Well, this isn't exactly the time or place to talk about render passes in XSI, but very, very quickly, the render pass is an actual pass, a render that you have set up for this. Now, it's a little bit hard to explain unless you see it in action. The thing is, I don't want to dive into it because we're going to be veering away from what we're actually trying to do. Right now, we have a default pass that's created for you by default when you open up a new scene in XSI. We can actually go ahead and create new passes. We can create shadow passes, ambient passes, diffuse passes, global illumination passes, so on and so forth, that we can use later for compositing on top of each other in a compositing program. But this isn't a compositing tutorial. We're not going to talk about passes, so we're just going to ignore that for the time being. And let's go over here to the render options instead. So if we go over here, we can go to our pass options. What we told the render region was to use the pass options in the render region. So we're going to control the render settings through our render options as opposed to the region render options. So let's go ahead and close this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to render. I'm going to go to renderer options down here, and I'm going to pin this down. And we're going to control Mental Ray through this window as opposed to the render region window. So what I'll do is I'll go to Final Gathering and I'll activate Final Gathering. And here's all our wonderful options. And I'll go ahead and do render region. And what we'll get is a pitch black render. No good, right? Of course that's no good. So should we do what we did in the last tutorial, which was to create a giant dome sphere, give it a white material, and light this up? No, we're not going to do that. Final Gather doesn't work just by creating big dome spheres. Final Gather can be used to light up scenes in a number of different ways. You don't have to have a giant sphere around your scene with a constant shader attached to it. We can actually use environment shaders and different things to light up this scene. In this video, the way that we're going to choose to do this is using a new feature in Exercise 6 that creates a physical sky system for you completely automatically. It's beautiful. It does all the work that used to take so long to do before. Now it does it for you in some button clicks. It's amazing. Now we're not going to do that in this video. I just want to go ahead and prep everything up and get it ready to go. In the next video, we're going to go ahead and start to create that physical sky system. And once we do, well, just hold on to your jaw because it's going to hit the ground. Okay, so I'll see you in the next video.